Okay, right off the top, I'm going to get this out of the way. No beer this time. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, getting over a bit of a cold here. Don't worry about me. I'm taking care of myself. But I still wanted to talk about this movie because I was finally able to check it out on Disney Plus, and one of my buddies really wanted to know my opinion of it a while back, and I did say I will do a review just for him. So one of two things, even if I only get one view on this video, there you go, James. How you doing, buddy? And number two, this will probably be the last on my own volition movie review I do. I say that, but we'll see if I actually stick to my guns. What I would rather do going forward is have you guys tell me what movies you would like me to talk about. Let's get a little bit more interactive. Let me know in the comments below. It could be an old movie, a new movie. If I'm able to see it, I will absolutely take it under consideration. And I think that might be an interesting way for this unique Van Life Plus Movies channel to sort of move forward with the movies. All right, with that out of the way, let's talk about Eternals. All right, so Eternals is one of the newer MCU movies. It's, I believe, like the second or the third one in phase 4. And it's the second one if Shang-Chi was the first one. I didn't see that one. That movie was okay. I haven't seen Spider-Man yet. That's out of the, I think, 3 movies in the Marvel. Oh, no, there was 4. I saw Black Widow. Hang on. I wasn't lying. Okay, so Eternals is Eternals is the third MCU movie of Phase 4. Like I said, it's finally available on Disney Plus. I didn't get a chance to check it out in the theater, and here we are. And I will say, before we get into anything specific, I was incredibly surprised by how much I actually enjoyed this movie. I saw the trailers for this movie, and it just did nothing for me. It just looked like another superhero movie with bland characters in these weird costumes, and they're all powerful beings. Well, where the heck were they when Thanos was invading, and all yada 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 yada. And even the big names involved, like Selma Hayek and Angelina Jolie, and oh boy, Kumail Nanjiani, like even their involvement, I was like, eh. The one thing that made me take some notice was that it was from, oh no, now people are going to yell at me. Well, why didn't you look it up if it was so important? The director. She directed Nomadland, which was a phenomenal movie, and I actually completely agree with all of the awards that movie won. And she took on Eternals immediately after that. That piqued my interest, but it was the only part that interested me. The rest of this movie, I knew nothing about the Eternals. I'm a Marvel guy. Like, I grew up with the Marvel comics. Spider-Man was my favorite comic book hero. I would dabble in like Fantastic Four and X-Men and that stuff, but I'd never even heard of the Eternals. So when I saw that Marvel was now making a new MCU entry with this movie, I was like, they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, eh? So anyways, that's part of the reason why I didn't ever saw it in the theater, because it just didn't give me that itch. I mean, if you watch my review for Shang-Chi, I've kind of reached the point where Marvel and Disney are just this money printing company, and they just keep giving us the exact same story over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? And to that point, I'll start with my negatives about this movie, but real quick, in case you don't know, Eternals is about a group of about 10 immortal beings that were created by this celestial being to protect Earth from these other creatures called deviants. And basically, the Eternals were put on Earth at the very beginning of time, and they're the reason, in a nutshell, why we have all of like the sort of stories that we have, like the story of Icarus, Icarus who flew too close to the sun and burned his wings, or however it goes. Well, one of the main characters in this movie, his name is Icarus. He's kind of like the Superman guy. He can fly and shoot laser beams out of his eyes, and 9 other folk, and they've just been living on Earth the entire time the Earth has been in existence. They were put here to destroy the deviants, which we see them do at the beginning of the movie, and then they're just sort of hanging out on Earth, waiting for their next set of orders from the one big celestial being that like put them there. So then, of course, the natural questions come up: well, where were they when Thanos was doing this, or any of the other like atrocities that happened throughout human history? And there's actually a good explanation. Enough of an explanation for a movie like this is they were told to not interfere with human progression. Okay, fine. Because when you have a story like the story of Thanos and the snap and all of that stuff happening, when you start to introduce new superheroes, the question's always going to be, where were they? Same happened with Captain Marvel, and the movie does end up biting itself in the foot. Shooting itself in the foot? I don't think I could bite myself in the foot. I could shoot myself in the foot, but I don't recommend it. It does that by having one, if not a couple, of the Eternals being extremely sympathetic to humanity. And the way that they do end up sort of interfering eventually, you think that those emotions would have risen a little bit sooner, like when Thanos was here. But anyways, that's the gist of the movie. And then, of course, the Eternals find out that there's something else going on behind the scenes, and that's our movie, to follow them as they figure out what's going on. Are there deviants still around in present day? And if there are, why are they here? And what is our real purpose of being here? And la 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 la. Here's the stuff that I didn't like about the movie. We're just going to get it out of the way real quick. The stakes aren't there, right? That's the problem with the MCU now. This movie, it sets its stakes as the world is going to be destroyed. But that's like all of the Avengers movies and a majority of the superhero movies that came before it, right? But we know that the world's not going to end in a movie called Eternals when Marvel has announced all of these other movies that are coming. Sure, someone out there could make the argument, oh, yes, but the multiverse is going to be a thing. But it's never just going to destroy Earth and have the multiverse be the new Earth. Do you know what I mean? So, with that being said, because we know that the Earth isn't going to get destroyed, we know that the superheroes will achieve their goal by the end of the movie. And yes, you could say that about any superhero movie, since we know it's definitely not going anywhere, especially when this movie came out. Spider-Man still had to come out, right? And chronologically speaking, hello. Another thing that I didn't really enjoy with the movie is the emphasis that it puts on love and relationships and compassion and emotion, especially when certain things get revealed as the story goes on about the Eternals. And it's like, well, if that was their big creator's plan, he sort of shot himself in the foot, didn't he? Other than that, there's nothing else that really bugged me about this movie. I went in with very low expectations and I came out thoroughly impressed. And if those are my only nitpicks, I do recommend you go watch it if you're a Marvel fan. If you don't like superhero movies, this isn't going to change your mind. And if you're just sort of ho-hum on them, I think it's worth watching. There's not so many connections to other Marvel movies that you'd be like lost. And here's like the biggest things that I took away from this movie. It's incredibly well shot. I mean, it's got the Marvel Disney quality and the production budget behind it, so of course it's going to look good. But the way that the director frames up her scenes with a lot of like these wide vista landscape shots was really beautiful, and I loved seeing that specifically in a movie like this. It's kind of like those things where it's like, this is too good for this movie. The movie didn't need to do this, but they went above and beyond to bring us this quality, and that was really cool. Number two, if I even said number one, was Angelina Jolie. I thought for sure she was just there to have a name on the poster to put butts in seats. And I thought, well, she's clearly going to get killed off in like the first half hour. Like, without spoiling anything, no, she's not. She's in the movie for the entire runtime. And what they do with her character, especially, is really cool. They touch upon this idea of the Eternals having been alive for so long. There's a possibility that they can suffer from something called mad weary, where it's just like the weight of all of the knowledge and all of the memories that you have begins to sort of tear your mind apart. That was really cool to me, and I thought it was used very effectively on a low scale. It's not like it comes to the forefront of everything, but it was super cool as a world building. This is what's going on with these characters in their universe thing. Number three, the other little standout in this movie was basically like the mini me Claire Danes playing the character of Sprite. So she's an Eternal that was made basically in I say an adolescent's body, because you got to remember the Eternals, they don't age, they don't die, they are who they are. And so she was made as a child for whatever reason, and she's been coping with the fact that she won't grow up, and she's spent her entire life on Earth around humans, but she's never going to be able to have that emotional love connection with anybody else because no one will ever look at her that way, because as humans we look at her as a child, right? And I thought her performance and her emotion and the way she just presented her role was really cool, but yet she totally looks like Claire Danes, like when Claire Danes was young. Just saying. But she was a huge standout in this movie. The guy playing Icarus, his character, well, cool. It was totally ruined for me by having watched The Boys on Amazon. He just really reminded me of Homelander for whatever reason. And there's certain moments in the movie where you're supposed to sympathize with him. But it's like, even though he hasn't been a dick, I'm just seeing Homelander. And Homelander, if you haven't seen The Boys, is a huge dick. That was a weird connection for me, but not everybody will have that problem. But yeah, that was just a one-off note that I made to myself while I was watching this movie. And there's this other character. Like, here's the thing, is a lot of these Eternals, you can sort of chalk them up to like Justice League members, which I know is DC, or even other Marvel characters. Like, you've got basically Superman, you've got basically Wonder Woman, you've got basically the Flash. The Flash is really cool. Her Eternals, why she's deaf, I don't know. She is. There's a deaf Eternal, and they can all sign language to her, and that's a thing. But that's kind of raises a question, like, why did the Celestial who created them make her deaf? That's one of those questions you don't want to get caught up on. She's the one that's like the Flash. She was super cool. She's underutilized for sure, but in the final conflict, the way they film her fight sequences and really emphasized how fast she can move and how she can use that to her ability, I thought was super cool. And I was just watching, I'm just like, damn, I like that better than the Quicksilver nonsense we saw from both Fox and Marvel when it came to the character of Quicksilver. Oh, right. There was one other thing I was like, I was kind of mediocre on. It was the, yeah, do more movie reviews when you're sick, Matt. Yikes. The design of the deviants. So the deviants are kind of like these animal, four-legged dog, dragon things. I don't know, but they're all like rainbow in color, and they're kind of like these really thick tendrils that all go on top of each other. Like I can see why that would look cool, maybe like in the design phase. On the screen, I just kind of thought, really? All right. Like it's fine. It's not distracting because it's bad CGI. It's just I didn't think they were that scary. And they do everything they can to make them seem like these formidable foes for the Eternals. But I don't know. I could take it or leave in that design. I feel like it could have been done a little bit better. This review's going on forever. At the end of the day, like I said, I was thoroughly impressed with this movie. I went in with low expectations. I wasn't expecting much. I was actually expecting it to put me asleep because I was extremely tired when I pressed play. And here's the thing, the movie's really freaking long. It's like 2 hours and 38 minutes, I think, but you got to remember like 8 minutes of that is credits because these movies are huge. So 2 hours and 30 minutes, and that's a long time. I never found the movie dragging, and it kept me awake. I thought the pace was great. Like I said, I never felt like I was falling asleep. It kept my interest, which was thoroughly impressive for how tired I was. I will give Eternals 8.5 out of 10. I liked it better than Shang-Chi. Not as good as stuff as like Thor Ragnarok or even the Spider-Man movies, but way better than I was expecting. And I'm super interested to see if they do a sequel. It definitely leaves itself open, or at the very least, I'm very curious to see how these characters will interact with characters like Guardians of the Galaxy or whoever else they may stumble upon in the future, because that's really all Marvel's doing at this point, right? It's just every movie is just set up for the next great thing, right? And that bothers me. But when the movies are this good, it bothers me a little bit less. The biggest was kind of Kumail Nanjiani. He just kind of vanished for the final conflict, like he pissed off, and then nobody got upset with him later down the line. Like, where were you, bro? That was weird. But he was underutilized, in my opinion. If you've been on the fence for Eternals, I think you should give it a shot. I really enjoyed it, and I'm probably missing a whole bunch of stuff that I really enjoyed, but I've rambled on long enough. So we're going to wrap this up. If you guys have seen Eternals, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one.